Willis, a co-founder of Hope Sheds Light. On behalf of my partners, my co-founders, Argo Prima and Ron Rosetto, I welcome you to our family support meeting. We have fun, and it's a joy to see everybody, and thank you to all of our Facebook friends who join us regularly too. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, let me tell you a little bit about Hope. Hope is a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to raise awareness and educate individuals, families, and the community about the impact of addiction by having the courage to share our personal experiences, offering wisdom and strength, and providing hope and resources that lead the entire family to long-term recovery. We need to do our part to remove the fear and stigma that's associated with this disease. We do so by providing a loving environment that helps families heal and brings the community toward wellness. Okay? That's what this family support meeting is all about, really. We meet on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month in this beautiful Holy Cross Lutheran Church in Toms River. If I get my way, we'll do it every week. We'll talk about that because it's fun. We want everybody to know that you're not alone. I mean, the meetings are open to anybody that's impacted by addiction. You're not alone. We're here, okay? And this is a safe and supportive environment for you to learn and grow. The hope really is that by you sharing with us and us sharing with you, you will have the courage to change the way you think and feel about addiction and therefore become healthier. So the first part of these meetings is an educational part. We have really talented colleagues that come around for about 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and share different topics about addiction, treatment, prevention. And then we break out into groups, and you have your colors, okay? We'll break out into groups. The purpose of that is for us to share what we've learned, to share, if you will, what's in your heart, what bothers you. We want to give you an educated plan that's based on love, wisdom, and strength, tools for recovery, so that you can walk out of here with hope and come back with some other people, okay? So thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. With that, let me introduce Lindsay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful, as always. I want to welcome everybody, just like Steve did. Thank you for coming out tonight. It's beautiful weather, but it's even more beautiful in here because the sun is shining along with the hope. We will have some announcements after the meeting. We will be passing out surveys for our presenter tonight. Normally I'd give a little bit of a bio on the presenter tonight. However, he has requested that he's going to do that himself. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our friend Glenn. Thank you.
So my name's Glenn Candeletti. I'm a New Jersey state licensed psychologist, and my practice is down in Forked River. However, this talk is going to be different than, more likely than any other talk that we've had here before. Now, how it's going to be different is everybody that's been here that I've seen has had a significant background in addiction, whether it's running a treatment facility, providing the service directly, they're in recovery, in some way, shape, or form related to the addiction treatment programs. I have none of that. As a licensed psychologist, I do have some working knowledge of addiction, but certainly not to the degree that you have seen up till now. So this is going to be a little bit different. Now, for those of you who have been to these meetings before, there are a lot of common themes that run through the meetings. So I picked one of the common themes to make as my theme for tonight. And we all talk about creating a new life. We're getting our life back. Whether you are a family member, whether you are recovering yourself. So tonight we're going to be talking about life by design. The antithesis of that is what I call bumper car living, which is what most of us do. So we're going to try to figure out how to do life by design. Now, a little bit about me. I've been married for 32 years. I have 2 kids, and like I said, my practice is down in Forked River. I do not do counseling. I do industrial organizational psychology. I started the business back in '83, and it's the largest one of its kind in the United States. Now, I'm not saying that because I want to impress you. I'm saying that to impress upon you that if you learn certain skill sets and you follow certain programs, that you can create amazing results for yourself by doing things that other people have done before you, so you don't recreate the wheel. Now, part of people joining AA and going to meetings is there's people there who've already done all this already, so you can learn from them. So what we want to do tonight is learn how to live life by design. So I would love to tell you that I was always ranked number one in my class. I was student body president. I was class valedictorian. But those would all be lies. In reality, I was none of those things. In high school, I was in the half of the class that held the top half of the class up. At the end of my sophomore year, when I went to my high school guidance counselor, you had to pick VOTEC versus college prep. He looked at my grades, and he looked at me, and he looked back at my grades and shook his head and said, "I'm thinking VOTEC." And I said, "Why?" And he said, well, he looked at my grades and he said, "I don't think you have the intellectual skills to handle college level classes," which I believe his guidance counselor talked for "you're too stupid to go to college." I think that's what that was. So I don't know what happened when he said that. My parents, when they were alive, it was one of the great mysteries why he pissed me off, because he did. Because I didn't know the guy. He had no meaning in my life whatsoever. But for whatever reason, he said something and he clicked. And up till there, I had taken being lazy to like Olympic levels. I was really, really good at it. And I'm very happy like that. And my parents had tried everything. Reward systems, punishment systems, you name it, they tried it, and it didn't work. Sort of like what happens here. And the reason why it didn't work was because I didn't want it to work. So I didn't let it work. And it didn't work. And then this guy, who I did not know, said what he said, and I got really angry. So I decided, I'm going to do better. So one of the first lessons that we figured out is, there is no true reality. It's only your personal perception. So when this guy looked at my grades, which were mostly C's and B's, his interpretation, his reality was that I wasn't smart. And that's what he decided. And so everything he did was based off that decision. I knew I wasn't stupid. I knew I was lazy, but I wasn't stupid, so my reality was different. And I went off of that. So we all have little different realities. We see things differently. And not everything is going to be the same. So what I had to do is, I'm like, I'm going college prep, I'm going to college. Okay, well, I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to do anything. So I went to a few friends who I knew got good grades, and I said, look, after school, do you mind if I hang out with you guys and like you teach me how to do this, because I'm a little behind? And they did. And that's when I learned another lesson. Success leaves clues. If you find people who are already good at something and you do what they do, within reason, you'll get the same results that they get. So I started to do that and incorporate those things. So I'm going to start off by doing something, and Steve's going to come up here and be a volunteer for me when I do this. We're going to do an exercise. We're in church, so I need everybody to stand up if you would. The only people I do not want standing up are people that have bad backs. It's not going to be extreme, but if you have a bad back, please don't. Yes, please. All right, so you're going to be here. All right, now, I need you to spread out because you're going to put your arm out to your side, so I don't want you sticking your finger in the ear of the person next to you. It's creepy. You don't want to do that. All right? Now, everyone put your arms down. Now, this is what we're going to do. It's very simple. All right? I'll show you first, and then we're going to do it. You're going to put your hand, your right hand, straight in front of you. Not now. I'll show you first. All right, you ready? We're going to do this. You're going to point to me, and you're going to turn clockwise. And you're going to keep going with your feet planted as far as you can comfortably go. Don't kill yourself. And then wherever you stop, I want you to remember what you're looking at. Like I'm looking at that candle. And then I want you to come back around and put your hand down. That's all I want you to do. It's very simple. Okay? So everybody ready? Hands up. And turn clockwise as far as you can. And then when you find a good spot, stop. Remember what you're looking at. Come all the way back around and put your hands down. Now, you're going to do this a couple more times. But the next 2 times, you're not going to move. You're going to do it in your head only. Okay? So we're going to visualize what we're doing. We are not going to move. So I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to imagine, do not move, imagine you picking your right hand up and you starting to turn clockwise. And as you go around, you notice that you are 1 foot past the thing that you stopped at before. And then you see yourself come back around and comfortably put your hand down. Now we're going to do it one more time in our heads. You're going to see yourself pick up your right hand. You're going to see yourself going clockwise around. And this time you went 2 feet beyond where you originally stopped the first time. And then you come all the way back around and put your hands down. Now, everybody, open your eyes. Put your hands out in front of you. Go as far as you can, all the way around. Remember what you're looking at? Come back around and put your hands down. Okay, now everybody can sit down. I got a lawyer up here for a reason. How many people went further that last time than they did the first time? Okay, you get to do the percentages. What do you think? Oh, hold him up, hold him up, hold him up. He's got a count. It's going to take him an hour. What'd you say? Give me a percentage.
Let's say 95%.
95%. How did you do that? We didn't work out. We didn't get a trainer. We didn't stretch. How did you do it? That's not a rhetorical question. You can actually answer it.
We imagine a vision.
Well, how did that work?
Power of suggestion.
Sort of. Yell out a key here.
A visual. And you're having more of an effort.
Okay. Almost nobody in this room is doing what they are capable of doing. I'm sorry. You can say it. Okay, well, you wanted to approve, so that was part. You were motivated. All right? You can say, we're good. Thank you. I appreciate it. You like staying on
I think
camera. I'm in the camera.
I like to be in the camera, exactly.
So almost nobody in this room, in reality, is functioning at their full capacity. Almost nobody. And we just proved that. We just proved that. The way we proved it is every single solitary one of us has limiting beliefs about who we are and what we can do. When you close your eyes and you imagine yourself going further, they will tell you that, scientists will tell you, that you can't tell the difference between a vivid dream and a reality, which is why when you guys have nightmares, you wake up screaming, because they're real, right? So in your mind, you allowed yourself, you gave yourself permission to go beyond your limitation, where you thought was about all you could do. And each time you gave yourself permission to go further, you did. So then when it came time to do it, you did it. So one thing that you can learn from this, if anything else, is that you are all far more capable in almost every area of your life than you are currently doing, because you've limited yourself. And we all do it. It's not like it's just one or two of us. We all do it. So right there was a little simple example of how you limit yourself in your beliefs. And your beliefs are what guide you. So in reality, here's an example. What is the truth? If I asked you, what is the truth? What would you say?
Your perception of the situation.
Okay, that's good. So it's your perception of a situation, or maybe it's something that you believe will be true based on facts. Okay. So we have a good age group for this, because I did this with really young kids and they looked at me like, what? Anybody here know who Roger Bannister was?
Sure.
Who was Roger Bannister?
The Hulk.
I'm sorry?
The Hulk.
No.
4 minute mark.
That's David Banner.
No, it's David Banner.
But that's close. Well, he's not
I like it.
He was a runner.
He was a runner. What did he do?
Long distance runner.
And what?
4 minute mile.
In 1954, he was the first human being to run a sub 4 minute mile. First one. Up until he did that, the truth was you cannot run a mile faster than 4 minutes. It can't be done. Within 2 years, 37 other people broke the 4 minute mark. How? He broke the truth. It's not the truth anymore. And this is something that we need to look at for ourselves And for others, when you come to meetings like this, sometimes you will hear people speak who are way ahead of you. And you're looking at them going, wow, I'm not there yet. I can't do that. The reality is they're breaking your truth. You don't think you could do it, but they're already doing it. So what does that give you? 4-letter word, first one in the name of the business. There you go. Gives you hope. I can do this. They did it. I can. And this is something that a meeting like this and business like this creates. It creates hope. It breaks truths that are not really true. So you just did that tonight for yourself. Now, anybody here ever do a fire walk? Where you walk on hot coals? All right, I'm not the only one in the room. All right. Well, I did that. Did you enjoy that?
Yes.
Yes. So I went to this place and they did a fire walk. So what they did was they had wood fires and they burned the coals down and they shoveled them out in about a 10-foot long path. And you were supposed to take off your shoes and socks, roll up your pants, and walk across the coals. Now, a scientist will tell you that the reason why you can do that is because the sweat coming off the bottom of your feet makes a vapor barrier and keeps you from getting burned. That sounds good in theory, but you still got to stick your foot in that stuff. And the reality is much harder. What happened when you got to the other side?
Everybody looked at me and couldn't believe that I did it. I felt good.
You felt good. When I did that, the first thing you do when you get to the other side is they shoot your feet with water just to make sure. And then you count toes. That helps. But then you realize you just did something that you know you cannot do. You walked on fire. All right? The second thought is, I wonder what else I know I cannot do. It's a tremendous thing. Now, the thing we did tonight pales in comparison, but the message is the same. If I can do this simple thing and break what I thought was true, what else do I know is true that's not? So that's part of what we're going to talk about tonight. So, all of us, all of us define ourselves in what we can and cannot do. So if you were walking down the street and you didn't have any money, you were really hungry, would you steal food out of the local 7-Eleven? The correct answer is no. For those in Facebook land, we all said no. So no. Why? Because you define yourself like that. I don't steal, right? It's easy. I don't steal. I don't kill. There's certain rules that you have that are non-negotiable. You don't waffle back and forth, or you're really trying not to kill that guy. You don't do that. You just don't. You don't. Because it's part of who you are. But we have a lot of rules in our heads. Some of them are not very good. So part of the thing is we have to take a close look at how we define ourselves. We fight to the death to stay whole with how we define ourselves. We will fight to the death to stay there. That is one of the hardest things to break. So if you say, I'm a cigarette smoker, that's going to be a real challenge for you to stop. Because you define yourself as a smoker. So when you say, well, yeah, I kind of like to quit, I got $50 in there to last out the day. Because you really don't want to. It's not who you are. You have to define yourself differently. So you can't redefine yourself just on an intellectual level. It doesn't work. So we all know, because we've dealt with situations in our lives, that logic and reason will tell you that the thing that you're doing, or the thing that your loved one is doing, or the thing that your family member is doing is not good for you. And people aren't stupid. They understand the facts. They know. I know this isn't good for me. But I'm going to do it anyway. So you can't just intellectualize, well, you know this is bad for you. Doctors have told everybody for years smoking's bad. Everybody did it anyway. Now we know there are certain rules. We have to change the things that we associate in our lives, and that's going to take an emotional change. So everybody pretty much knows what an association is. You take two things that really don't have anything to do with each other and you snap them together. So like when you're driving down the street, when you leave here tonight, you come up on the intersection, they got that little box thing hanging off there, and the box is red, what do? Please? Okay, who didn't answer? Because I don't want to be near you. All right, stop. Well, red doesn't mean stop. Red's a color. Red doesn't have a meaning. It's a color. But we've been taught. We associate. Red means stop, green means go, and yellow means hurry up. Or something like that. So, we associate things. So, alcohol, fun. Drugs, fun. We start to associate things, and those things become one. And it's very difficult to break an association. Now there was a tremendous TV show that I saw that showed how this can work. It was a great documentary. I don't know if you've seen it. The Charles Dickens Christmas Carol. Do you remember Scrooge? Hated people. Hated them. And he treated them like that. And he was very happy hating people. So nobody could say, look, people are okay, it's okay, you should be nicer, you should, no. So 3 psychologists with extensive backgrounds in neuroassociative training showed up in his house. And one of them took him back and showed him how crappy his life really was and made it painful to see what he had done. The next one took the baton and showed him how lousy his life was today and how much pain he was creating and how much pain that created for him. And then the future guy showed up and did the same thing. Now, they have changed the association. They associated massive levels of pain with his past, his present, and his future. And what happened? It changed. And until we do that with things that are bad for us, we will continue to do that. As long as we say things like, oh, it'll get better later, you'll keep hanging on. It wasn't so bad in the past, you will keep hanging on. So part of it is we need to change the way we associate things on an emotional level, not just an intellectual level. And when we do that, things can change. Now remember, this thing tonight is a generic talk. This is for everybody. This isn't for any one person in particular. This is for everybody. So I always tell people in life you will get what you see. So if you think about, like, we've got a camera going here. If we went to a party and we were looking through the eyes of a camera and we looked at one side and everybody was laughing and having a good time, what would we say? Great party. We look over here and people are sitting on the couch yawning and falling asleep. This is a lousy party. But it's the same party. The thing is we train ourselves where to look. And that's all we see. So when you train yourself to say, my life stinks, your brain will do exactly what you tell it to do and find every possible reference point to prove to you that you're right. Because in your brain, this is just thinking. Thinking is like talking to yourselves, right? We talk to ourselves all the time. True? Yeah. How many people know where the voices come from? They're your voices. So there isn't a little guy sitting up in the front, and when you speak to yourself, he doesn't sit there and filter and say, well, she doesn't mean that, or he doesn't mean that, or yeah, that was pretty good, or I think they overstated that one, or whatever comes in, all right? So you have to be careful of how you talk to yourself, the language that you use, because you are coaching yourself into seeing the world the way you want to see it. It may not be the best way for you to see it, but you are coaching yourself to do that. So if you say things like, I can never, then you can't. You ever heard that expression? If you say you can or you say you can't, either way you're right. That's it. If you say, I can't do that, well, you're not. So the way you speak to yourself is important. If you say, this is difficult for me, that's a lot different than I can't do this. So the message you're giving yourself is important. You need to know which one you want. This is killing me. My life is over. I can't do this anymore. And we've all heard people throwing that around, but they throw words around like tissues. That's not how this works. They count. They have meaning. They're important. And so you have to be the person up here that watches what you say so that you coach yourself in the directions that you want to go. Now, I gave you a couple of handouts. If you didn't get any, I can get them for you. So this first one, the first page that you have, you see this? I'm going to hold this up so the camera can see it. This was written by a guy named Stephen Covey. Covey, C-O-V-E-Y. All right? And you see how it's the circle of concern and the circle of influence. Okay? Now, if I wanted to drive somebody nuts, that's a technical term, I would have them think about things in the circle of concern. So think of any situation you want to, things that are overseas, or poverty, or splitting families up, or building walls up, whatever you want to think about, that you can do absolutely nothing about. The more you stay in there, the more nuts you get. Because you're thinking about things that you can't do anything about. Now, so are you concerned about a loved one who's doing something that you know is destructive? Okay, but you can't live in there. You got to get out of there. And you got to get back to the circle of influence. That's the stuff you can do something about. So the circle of influence are things you can have some direct effective change in. The circle of concern, it's stuff you're concerned about. There's nothing you can do. And the more you live in there, the more difficult your life becomes because you become obsessed by it. And you're constantly looking for answers that will never come because there isn't anything to do. Just like my parents trying to get me to study in high school. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Because they didn't want to. And when I finally decided, okay, it was going to happen, I graduated from 3 colleges. I sent the guidance counselor a copy of my degrees each time. It said, from the idiot. Yeah, that was fun. I actually enjoyed that. All right, so I gave you another thing here too, and I want you to take a look at this. This again is a good way to make sure that you're either going to drive yourself nuts or not. So you have this chart here. You see how the first one says not important, not urgent? It's stuff like, you know, you get the bills in today, they're not due for 3 weeks. Is it really important? No. Is it urgent? No. Then leave it. Or you could drive yourself nuts and get the bills out today. Why? You just added an enormous amount of stress to something that didn't need it. And if you look, you can think about things that are in your life that you are putting in the wrong box. Maybe they're important, but they're not urgent. Or maybe they're not urgent, but they're important. And depending on where you put them in that box, they're either going to let stress go, or they're going to create a whole load of it. So I wanted to give you this because it's a good way that you're sitting around sometime and you're agonizing over something and you have something like this, you can just kind of take a quick peek at it and say, well, where does this really belong? And help yourself to put it where it belongs. So you can go forward and make yourself a little bit easier, your life a little easier. All right? Now, remember I told you that we all have ways that we define ourselves? Everybody in here know how a thermostat works? Or in this case tonight, not work? Everybody knows? All right, let me take a sip here. All right, so, in essence, let's say that's the thermostat on the wall. So let's say we put the thermostat, are there any HVAC guys? Because I don't want to get yelled at for explaining it. No? Good, okay. So we set it at 70 degrees, okay? So it gets too cold and goes down to 68. Thermostat says, oop, too cold, don't like this. Fires up the heaters. Drives the temperature up to 72 and stops. Good enough. And it creates what they call a comfort zone. Now, when you're in your house, if your air conditioning is working better than this one, you will not know the difference between the top and the bottom of that 4-degree swing. It creates a zone where there's no perception of change. This is what people like to make their lives in. I want everything quiet. I want calm. I want everything to be comfortable. Comfort zones. Except that's not really a good place to live. A good place to rest, but not a good place to live. One of the problems is, for each of us in this room, we have a personal thermostat. Who sets the thermostat? Your parents? Your kids? You do. You do. So, where do you know how to set it? How do you know?
What do you think about?
I'm sorry?
What do you think about?
Part of it is your past, your present, all the things that have trained you up to this point. Remember the rules? This is who I am. You've made decisions on how good looking you are, how smart you are, how much money you're going to make, what kind of friends you're going to have, what kind of house you're going to live in. You've made all these decisions already. And they're reflected in that thermostat. So if you had your thermostat set at 70, that means your high point is 72. It's the most you could go. Which means that if you saw something that was maybe a 75 or an 80, you would disregard it. It's out of reach. I can't do it. Everybody's had situations like that, right? You see a car or a house, or if you're single, you see a person, and you go, oh, too far, too out of reach, no way, that's not going to happen, right? We've all done it. Converse is also true. So if it's a 65 or a 60 or a 55, you look at me and go, it's not really what I want. It's not good enough, right? What would happen if you moved that thermostat from 70 to 80? So that means you got that 4-degree swing, right? So if it's at 80 and it drops down to 78, it's now 6 points higher than your highest one was when you had the 70. Which means your worst thing is way better than your best thing was when it was 74. The problem is we set our own thermostats and we assume it's true. This is where it's supposed to be. Well, no. You made your own rules. You don't know that. And again, it goes back to what we did earlier. Your truth sets that thermostat, what you can and cannot do. But how do you know that's true? You don't. So I'm going to show you how this works out. You see the thing here, the chart with the 4 things on it? Potential, belief, action, results. I'm going to show you how this works. All of us have a preconceived notion of what our potential is, whether it's in athletics or making money or relationships, or you name it. Yes?
We don't have that.
You don't have that one? Oh, you didn't get that. Okay, well then you're going to have to believe it. So I'm going to hold it up, all right? So, this is the box. You didn't have that. Okay. So, you got potential, which is what all of you think about yourselves. You have action, you have results, and you have beliefs. So, if you have a half-assed point of view of your own potential, how much effort do you think you're going to put into the actions that you take? Half-assed, right? So I don't think very much of my potential, so I'm not going to put very much into the effort. I'm not going to. So what kind of results are you going to get from that? Lousy. Lousy. So what those results are going to do is going to cement the belief that you're not that good, which means you're going to lower your potential, worse effort, lousier results, and here comes the cycle. So we know people, and sometimes it's us, we know people that have that issue. I can't do this. They give it a half-assed effort. Doesn't work out. I told you I couldn't do it. Potential is now lower, and we get into the loop. Those are very difficult to get out of. They're very difficult to get out. But through support, through counseling, through coaching, what you can start to do is believe that your potential is greater. And with the help of others, with that higher potential, you start to get a little better effort. All of a sudden, the results get a little better. Now your belief is, maybe I'm a little better than I thought I was. Now your potential goes up, and you start to get into a different loop. And it's very important that we try to help the people around us and ourselves to get into that. So that brings me to designing your life. I'm running out of time already. So, you did get the life pizza. I'm Italian. Gotta have pizza in this. All right, so this is something that I want you to be able to take home with you. So it's a regular large Italian pizza, 8 slices. Everybody in here Italian? Or at least like Italian? All right, so you got your pizza. So your pizza has 8 slices. So I put a label on all of these so that you would have a thing to look at. Now, what you do, I mean, we would do it here, except we're running out of time. So when you take this home, use a pencil. On a 1 to 10, with 10 being great, rate how happy you are with each slice. You're not going to see a whole lot of 9s in here. Now, one of the problems that people have is when one slice goes bad, we tend to let it bleed into everything else. So we stop living, and we focus on the bad slice. So by rating on 1 to 10 how you feel about what you're doing in that area, you can start to design your life. So we have any builders in here? Oh, this is great. No builders. All right, if you wanted to build a house, because now they can't tell me I'm wrong. If you wanted to build a house from scratch, before it's finished and you move in, how many times do you build it?
Once.
No. Not 2. 3. Perfect. Who said 3? Brilliant. 3. How do you build a house 3 times before it's done? Dream about it. You design it out, draw it, and then you build it. All right? So that goes back to, if you don't have a destination, you can't get there. If you want to design a life, that's what you have to do. So you ask yourself a question. Lifestyle. If I could have any lifestyle I want, no limitations, no restrictions, what would it look like? And write it down. And you do that with each of the slices. No limitations, no restrictions. And you write it down. And then you start to design. Okay, well, how do I get there from here? And you start to take the steps. Now, does that mean you're going to get there? No. Does it mean you're going to get further than you are now? Yes. So you're going to set goals, specific goals. So if somebody says, oh, finances, I want to make a lot of money. Well, how much is a lot? If I'm making $100,000 a year, it better be more than that, or else I'm not going to be interested in it. If you're making $50 a year, $100 sounds good. So you've got to design it out, because if you don't design it, if you don't define it correctly, you can't do it. You can't get there. So part of having this chart is your ability to design what you want by asking yourself the questions. What do I really want? And we hear these in these meetings. People say, you got to get your life back. What life? Or what if you said, well, to be honest with you, I don't want my old one back. Fine. Let's make a new one. And how do we do that? So this is part of how you could do this. So I wanted to give you that so you had something to take home. You could use it anytime you want.
What does the HI represent?
Hobbies and interests. My wife told me I should not have done that. She said, nobody's coming up with that. Hobbies and interests. So again, this is something that you can design for yourself. Most people have never done this. They have not. But if you do, you can make amazing changes in short periods of time because you've designed it to work like that. The other thing is, one of the great American philosophers of our time, Rocky Balboa, once said, smart people have smart friends, nice people have nice friends, and yo-yo people have yo-yo friends. It's simple mathematics. Safety in numbers. Surround yourself with people who want to be like you, or you want to be like them. Surround yourself with them. Because when they say, oh, I did this cool pizza chart that this guy gave me, and this is what I'm going to do. They're not going to look at you and go, are you nuts? They're going to say, cool, how? How? Show me how. And they're going to support your ideas and help you to motivate yourself to do it. You need to surround yourself with people who think like you, or that you want to think like them. And if you do that, it helps things to be easier. If you're weighted down by people who will always tell you no, you're not going to go anywhere. It's very hard to do it alone, which is why everybody's here. It's hard to do it alone. So, before I get too far away, we got to break into meetings. Who has questions? Yes?
Is the life pizza like a vision board for yourself in a way?
Yes. Yeah. That's another way to do it. I'm Italian, so I had to eat food. So. But, yeah, vision boards work fine. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I was told one time that if you're flipping through a magazine, you see a picture, and that picture like embraces something that you really want, cut it out and save it. Sure, whatever works. If you're very visual, great way to do it. Great way to do it. So I hope I gave you some practical stuff that you can use. And if anybody needs any more of these things, Lindsay said that I could get it to her, or she could upload them onto the site or whatever. So we can do that if you didn't get any of these, or you want more or whatever. So we can certainly help you out. Any other questions? Anybody else have anything? Yes?
No, I just thought it was very interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And my firewall guy.
4 boxes that we did all get. It was potential, action, results, and what were the other boxes?
Belief. So your beliefs affect your potential. Your potential affects the amount of effort and action that you take, and that affects the results. And then you got what we call the doom loop. One other thing before we go. All right. Persistence pays off. Right? And this is this really stupid question, but it's a good point. How many times did you give your children the opportunity to walk before you told them you failed too many times of cutting off? As long as it took, right? There's the magic formula. Most people don't do that. They try it a couple of times, doesn't work, they try something else. What you don't know is it could have been that next time, or the time after that. Just be persistent, keep going. That's the key to a lot of things, is the persistence pays off. If you quit early, you're never going to know if you were on the right path. So you got to just get yourself up, dust yourself off, and do it again. All right? I thank you for your time.
Great.
Thank you so much, Glenn. That was very powerful and different. Like you promised it was going to be very inspiring. So we're going to end the Facebook Live feed now. I want to encourage